I'm trying to figure out is what's the deal with all these school teachers out here? The female ones, the male teachers, men teacher, women. I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to figure out did these teachers did they not get the attention when they were high school students, or was they probably the quiet ones? They probably sat at their lunch table and no one didn't really want to talk to them. You know how it is, because people probably looked at them as weirdos when they was high school students and probably didn't have that many friends. Probably wasn't that very sociable. People probably looked at you as a weirdo in high school. But then as soon as you teachers graduate from high school and some of y'all start to look a little bit more pretty and everything like that, y'all become teachers yourselves. Now some of y'all are getting the attention that y'all always wanted, because you never really got that kind of attention when you was a high school student, because again, you probably didn't really socialize with a lot of people like that. And yeah, you probably might have been a cheerleader. Some of you teachers out there, female teachers, probably was cheerleaders and this and that. And but I guess it probably wasn't enough. A guy probably never asked y'all out on a date. But as soon as y'all become school teachers yourselves, and you got a bunch of teenagers giving y'all compliments, saying like how beautiful you are, and I guess that kicks in right there, because they be like, my God, I'm almost 30 years old. I never had no one approach me and saying how beautiful or how attractive I am. Nobody back in my high school days gave me that kind of love and attention. But now that I'm a school teacher, I'm getting that love and attention that I've always wanted all my life as a teenager, though. And I think that's what's playing a part in this, in my honest opinion. I could be wrong for saying this, but I absolutely think that some of these school teachers, the ones that get caught having sex with these students, I honestly think that they did not really get the attention. Some of them probably did not get the attention that they wanted back then when they was teenagers. Now they're teachers themselves. Everybody's like, the students is giving them great compliments and saying, hey, Miss Brownie, you're looking great today. You're looking, you know what I'm saying? And I guess that kicks in on stuff like that. But still, you're an adult. Still, you know what I'm saying? Still should not give you an excuse to be having inappropriate stuff with minors out there. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say about you husbands out there that's married to some of these school teachers, husbands and wife. That's why I say that y'all need to keep a close eye on them. If you are a married wife and your husband a school teachers, you need to keep an eye on them. If you are a husband and you are married to a wife and your wife is a school teacher, you need to keep an eye on her and keep tabs on her, how she's acting around students. Yeah, you need to start doing that, people. Or if you two are already married and one of y'all are thinking about being a school teacher, then one of y'all need to speak up and say, no, that is a bad idea. I don't want you around those school teachers. I don't want you around students, period. Why? Why can't I be? Nope. Find something else. Find a better career to take. I don't want you being no freaking school teachers, because I ain't got no time for a student out there accusing you of you touching them in the wrong spot, or you touch their private part, or you touch their behind, and they go back and tell their parents, and now you lose your job. And so I don't want to be married to a woman like that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if I was married to my wife, I would reject that idea and tell her no. Don't be a school teacher. Find something else to be a teacher, because being a school teacher is a risky freaking job. It's a risky freaking job, man. Because when you're married, you try not to think about that kind of stuff. Because you're thinking to yourself like, okay, my wife, she's teaching some kids in school. As a husband, you don't really have to think about stuff like that. But you don't want to think about that your wife is messing around with children, something like that. You try not to think. You try not to think like that, but it makes you think like that. Especially if your wife is getting too close to these teenagers. She's getting too close with them and stuff like that. That's why I say, some of you husbands out there need to keep an eye on your wife out there, and including you women, including you wife out there. If you got a husband that's a school teacher, keep an eye on his ass. I know you can't always see everything what's going on, but you got to watch him sometimes, man, because But this woman right here was married though. She was married, and you see that the husband hurried up and divorced her ass and took the kids away. He ain't waste no time divorcing her, and rightfully so, because how that reflect on him? How that reflect on him? Because that makes him look bad. So I would have done the same thing. I would have took my kids away from my wife, my ex-wife. I would have divorced her and took the kids and say, you know what? And you're gonna pay child support when you get out of jail. You ain't out of the fire yet. You ain't out of the fire yet, woman. But it's actually crazy though, man. It's just crazy that and a lot of parents out there be saying like, why do they keep hiring these teachers? Well, for one, in order to become a school teacher, you got to have a clean record. And, when someone puts in an application and their record is clean and they've never been in trouble by the law, it's really hard to tell if they are PDLs or not. It's hard to tell, especially when, before you hire them, you look up their records and their records is clean. They've never been arrested, never had no warrant out. They've never broken the laws. And that's why some of these teachers out there want to become school teachers, because they use that as their advantage, because they never got in trouble by the law. They never broken no law. They got no records. They're not no felonies. So that's an easy way for pedophiles like teachers to sneak into the system. Easy way. And it's very hard to tell which one it is, because they don't have they have no history of breaking the law. So it's hard to tell which one it is. I've said this numerous times about schools out there being strict on students, about students coming to school wearing, bringing guns and knives to school. They also need to be strict on these teachers as well. Keep an eye on them. And y'all be watching these students like a hawk, which that is y'all's job, to make sure these kids are safe. But at the same time, y'all need to be watching them school teachers as well. Y'all need to be paying attention to them. Pay attention on how they dressing, especially when a teacher comes to school, especially if she's teaching high school students. Because in my honest opinion, I think if a woman is in her 20s, she should not be teaching high school students. She should be teaching kindergartens. I think they need to set a new law about that. About if she's like around the age of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, or whatever, she should not be teaching no high school students. She shouldn't. They need to make it where, back in the old days, you would have these old teachers out there that be like 50 years old, like old enough to be our grandmothers. They need to start going back to that. They need to start having old grandma school teachers, the ones that would hit you with the ruler, or they'll scratch the chalkboard if you ain't listening, or they'll hit you with the ruler. Like, pay attention now. I'm talking about one of them old women's out there, old women teachers. They look old enough to be our grandmother. They need to start going back to that. They go back to that. If they start hiring teachers that's like in their 60s and they got gray hair and they're old women's and they walking around hitting the desk with the school hitting you with the ruler. Pay attention. Don't go to sleep now. If they start going back to that, it'll probably be less sexual stuff going on in school with these teachers. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's another way that they can probably do this though. They can probably do it through computer, where all students just sit home and the teacher just, because you guys remember when the pandemic first came out, and the only way you can go to school is through face cam, like the teacher would try to teach you through cameras and everything like that. Maybe they can do it that way, but I don't see the school doing anything about it though. They're not gonna really do nothing about it though. It's only gonna get worse and worse. If I had a nickel of all the teachers that's got caught sleeping with students, I'd probably be a millionaire right about now. You would think the school system would tighten up on these teachers and stop the stuff from happening. You would think they would stop all the school shootings and stop these pedophile teachers sneaking in, sleeping with students. I mean, all the money that they're doing and bringing into the school, they don't have enough money to stop these people from doing the things they're doing. You know what I'm saying? And it's always going to keep happening until the school system steps up and start being a little bit more strict about things, about the rules and politics. You know, it's crazy though, man. You know, I don't know why she did what she did messing with that teenager though. I mean, you're married, you're 29 years old and you're married, and you still started messing with minors, stuff like that. That's why I say you got to be careful who you marry nowadays, man. You can't just marry just anybody nowadays. You got to be really careful who the hell you marry nowadays, especially if the person you're marrying talking about being a freaking school teacher. I say I don't know about that. I don't know if I want you to be a school teacher. You need to find a better career than that. I ain't got time for that. Out of all the freaking jobs, you want to be a freaking school teacher. Why? Why do you want to be a school teacher for? You're that obsessed with children? Oh, I love children. Wait, what you mean you love children? You love children like in that way or what? Like nowadays, you don't. It's kind of hard to tell when the people talk about say, "Oh, I love children because you know." I'm like, what do you mean you love children? You know what I'm saying? I love children because I want to be a school teacher and this and that. Why you want to be a school teacher for? You ain't trying to educate none of these students out there. You want to be a school teacher because you want to be an attention whore. Because you ain't grow up yet. Even though you're married, you still want it both ways. You want to be married and still be a little whore and messing with minors. Because you're a school teacher and you still ain't grow up yet. You're still stuck in that high school attention mentality. You're still stuck in that. You're not an adult. You're not an adult at all. And I think that's what it is with some of these school teachers, man. They don't want to grow up. And it's like I was saying earlier about that mayor, the mayor, like, it's just stupid, though. Like, you're in your 30s and your 40s and you're hanging out with a bunch of teenagers. You're smoking weed. You're getting drunk. You're hanging out with a bunch of teenagers and you're in your 30s and 40s. Like, you look fucking stupid. Like, people don't have I said earlier, man, no one has no shame in that. They has no shame. They're not embarrassed by that. The hell I look like surrounding myself with a bunch of 15 or 16-year-old kids. I'm sitting out there smoking weed and getting drunk with them and getting high with them, a bunch of little kids out there. Like, what the hell? The hell's wrong with you people? You don't want to mess with nobody your age? Like, wouldn't you want a grown man out there that show you respect? Wouldn't you want a grown man that'll tell you how beautiful you are? Like, what? As an adult, what the hell can you benefit from a high school student? What can you benefit from them besides sex? Nothing. What you gonna get out of them? Lunch money or something? That's what you gonna get out of these high school students? You're gonna get their lunch money because that's the only thing they can benefit from you is their lunch money. They don't have jobs, so what can you benefit from that? Nothing. It don't benefit you nothing. Because your man ain't giving you enough dick in the bed, I guess because the sex ain't good enough, or he's probably treating you like shit. I guess that's what some of these female teachers does though, because their husband ain't giving them enough sex, or the sex ain't good enough, or the husband probably don't last long enough in the bed with them because that might play a part in that. You know what I'm saying? Or it's something though. Because if you're a married woman, why would you cheat on your husband? Evidently, you're doing it out of spite. You got some kind of animosity towards your husband because your husband probably treats you like shit. And now that you meet some young little punk who's probably showing you respect and telling you how beautiful and how sexy you are, and he doesn't really get an attitude with you, and you be like, oh my God, I think I'm in love now. This little young little punk right here is showing me way more respect than my husband is. That could probably play a part in that, people. You know what I'm saying? And it's also got something to do with dominance, too. Because some of these teachers feel like, because they're older than some of these kids out here, it's also got to do with dominance, too. Because their husband don't put up with their BS. They don't put up with their BS, and that's probably got something to do with it. I look at it like this: if I'm married and my wife don't show me no freaking respect, then I'm going to divorce her, because as a grown man, I'm all about respect. If my wife don't respect me and we're married and she don't respect me, I'm gonna be the bigger person and walk away and get a divorce. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get a divorce, but I'm not gonna sit there and lower myself down because my wife is treating me like crap at home and she ain't respecting me. Now all of a sudden I go riding out looking for some teenagers and stuff like that. Like, why would I do something stupid and sick like that when I could be going somewhere finding another woman that's around my age range, finding an adult woman? Why the hell would I want to lower myself down to messing with teenager just to be spiteful at my wife because my wife doesn't show me no respect at the house and she's treating me like shit and giving me a hard time? Now all of a sudden I want to lower myself down and mess with teenagers? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people out there, man? What is wrong with you people? It's just very sickening, man. It just makes me sick of people like this in this world that exists. And I said this a million times. All you teachers out there that's messing with students right now and have not gotten caught, you're going to get caught eventually. Just like this woman right here. Your time's going to come. And when your teachers be in the courtroom and that camera be on y'all and y'all on the news, y'all gonna be sitting there crying with those fake crocodile tears, crying in the courtroom, embarrassed because you got caught. It's not because you're ashamed or you feel bad because you did it. You did it because you're crying because you're embarrassed that you got caught, and now the whole world knows that you're a sick person. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about this, man. Anyway, y'all, peace.